Mira la hora. Ya son las 8 aquí en mi clase. Now, you can look at the clock where you are and try telling the time in Spanish. Hola y buenos días. Me llamo Roberto Morris. Soy el maestro de español. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Today we're going to look at the calendar and then review the things that we talked about in our last lesson. And finally, we'll talk about measuring larger units of time using a calendar. But let's get started, as we always do, with our opening song. Canten conmigo. Hola, hola, buenos días, bienvenidos, ¿cómo están? Todos juntos ya estamos listos para aprender. Muy bien cantado. Now, as I said, we're going to go over the calendar first. So I'll ask the questions, and I'd like for all of you to answer them, okay? We'll start off with this question. ¿Cuáles son los días de la semana? Now, I've seen this a couple of times. We'll find the answer up here, and you'll answer like this. Los días de la semana son lunes, martes, miércoles, help me out here guys, jueves, viernes, sábado y domingo. Now, I also ask you this question. ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy? ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy? And I'm asking you about the date today. Now, since you might be watching this on a separate day or different day, let's say today is a Tuesday, okay? And it was the 19th of November. We'd answer like this. Hoy es martes 19 de noviembre. That's right. Now, since you're watching this program on tape, you're probably watching it on some other date than November 19th. See if you can figure out what the date is for the day that you were watching this and say it in Spanish. Let's start by reviewing what we talked about in our last class. Who remembers what we talked about measuring? That's right, time. Now, a lot of the words that we talked about were cognates, so that makes it pretty easy. What do we use to measure how long you can hold your breath? In Spanish, segundos. Segundos. What would you use to measure how long our Spanish lesson is? And in Spanish, minutos. Minutos. And what unit of measure do you use to know how long you stay at school every day? In Spanish, horas. Muy bien. Well, what do we call a quarter of an hour in Spanish? Quarter. That's right, it's almost a cognate. Un cuarto de hora. Okay. Does anyone remember what we call a half an hour? A half an hour. This one's a little bit tougher. Hopefully you have it in your notebooks. Media hora. Media hora. And if we want to say that it's 5 minutes until 4 o'clock, we can say faltan 5 para las 4. Okay? Hopefully you have all of those in your notebooks or you've gotten it today. That was what we talked about last time. Please take a moment to review now with this video. Presten atención y repitan todos. Este es un reloj. Marca la hora. Este es un segundo. Este es un minuto. Esta es una hora. Este es un cuarto de hora. Esta es media hora. Según el reloj, faltan 5 para las 2. Now, that used a watch, but another way of measuring time uses this. ¿Cómo se dice en español? ¿Cómo se dice? Sí, es el calendario. El calendario. And we've seen this enough to know that it's almost the same as the calendars that we use, right? I think that the biggest difference is that the calendar in Spanish starts on lunes, which is what? Monday, right? Lunes is Monday. Okay, now we can say lunes es un, what? Es un día. Duh, un día. Now, what if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? What if we have 7 days? I bet that many of you can remember this just because we've said it so much, okay? Okay, I'll give you a hint. ¿Cuántos días hay en una semana? Una semana. That's right. Now, how about this? If we have about 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, if we have about 4 weeks, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, probably more, what do we have? En español se dice un mes. Un mes. And that word sounds kind of like a mess that you make in your room, right? Este mes es noviembre. Es noviembre. Okay, here's another question. ¿Hay 12 meses en qué? Hay 12 meses en un año. En un año. Now, we said that the calendar in Spanish starts on Monday. So, what are these 2 days here? Sábado y domingo, Saturday and Sunday. That's the weekend. El fin de semana. El fin de semana. Now, what do you think fin means? It means the end. And it kind of makes sense because they're over here at the end of the week, right? And we sing a song to help us remember the names of the days of the week. Let's go ahead and sing it now again to help us review. Hay 7 días en una semana, los vamos a nombrar. Help me out here, guys. Lunes, martes, miércoles, jueves, viernes, sábado, domingo. Okay, Now, if we have 28 to 31 days, we get a month. And how many months are there in a year? That's right, there are 12. Well, let's look at the names of the months in Spanish. You probably remember this first one is the most difficult. The rest are almost all cognates. Repitan todos. Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre y diciembre. Okay? And as you probably remember, I have a song to help us remember the months. It goes like this, and if you can sing along, I'd like you to. Enero, febrero, marzo y abril, mayo y junio y julio también, agosto, septiembre, octubre ya llegó, noviembre, diciembre, el año ya acabó. Tell you what, let's review the calendar once more with this video. Presten atención y repitan todos. El calendario. Este es un día. Hay 7 días en una semana. Este es el fin de semana. Hay 28 a 31 días en un mes, según el mes. Hay 12 meses en un año. Muy bien. Well, let's go ahead and look at our activity sheets now. The first one is called ¿Cuántos hay en un Okay. Voy a empezar, voy a escribir mi nombre. R-O-B-E-R-T-O, Roberto. Now, the directions say fill out this sheet, keep it for future reference. And here you go. En un minuto hay segundos. En un minuto, in 1 minuto, minute, there are how many segundos? How many seconds in a minute? Sesenta. Sesenta. Okay. En una hora hay ¿cuántos minutos? Can you figure that out and write the answer in there? En un día hay ¿cuántas horas? En una semana hay ¿cuántos días? En un mes hay entre y días, según el mes, depending on the month. En un mes hay más o menos ¿cuántas semanas? How many semanas en un mes? En un año hay ¿cuántos días? Okay. En un año hay ¿cuántos meses? See if you can fill that in. And then down here at the bottom it says, find the hidden words below. So here are the words that we've been working on, and you'll find them all in here. See if you can locate all of those words and circle them. on the word search down there. Okay. Now, sometimes it's hard to think that there's any other way to do something than the way that we do it, right? Well, take the calendar, for example. It seems to make so much sense to us that it's hard to think of anyone doing it any other way. But the Aztecs used to have a calendar very different from ours. Let's look at it now. Okay, this is your activity sheet. It's called El Calendario Azteca. Yours isn't colored. I went ahead and colored mine. Okay, let me see. This is what it looks like. Their calendar had 18 months of 20 days each, and then they had 5 extra days at the end of every year. Okay, so they use natural figures to count their calendars. If you look right here in the center, this is what they referred to as their sun god. And then around the outside, if you look, you can see different natural figures here. Here's a deer head, and let's see, there's a fox, there's an eagle, a jaguar. Okay, there are all sorts of things around here, and they use these to count the days. Okay, now you can find some information on this. You can find some on the World Wide Web, or there's some real good National Geographics that talk about the Aztec calendar. Take a few minutes to find out some information about that and color yours. It's a lot of fun to color, right? You use real bright colors. Okay. Today, we reviewed the measuring that we've been talking about up to now in the unit, and we started talking about the calendar. Next class, we're going to be talking about measuring even bigger portions of times called seasons. Do you know what the seasons are in English? What season are you in now? Okay, see if you can figure that out and talk about that before our next class so that you'll have some background knowledge when we start talking about that in Spanish. Okay? Muy bien. Saben que ahora es hora de despedirnos. Okay, it's time to say goodbye. And for our goodbye song today, let's sing La Cucaracha again. Did any of you find out what La Cucaracha means? See if you can find out. Ahora canten conmigo. Todas las muchachas tienen en los ojos 2 estrellas, pero las mexicanitas de seguro son más bellas. La cucaracha ya no quiere caminar, porque no tiene, porque le falta dinero para gastar. Now don't forget, as we keep moving through the year and learn new things like what we're doing now about measuring, don't forget to go back periodically and review the things that we've already learned, like the greetings and polite phrases, body parts, parts of the head. And that'll keep it so that it's fresh in your mind. You'll be able to use it a lot, and the lessons will mean a lot more for you. Okay? Until our next class. Adiós y hasta luego. La cucaracha, la cucaracha.